call the meeting of the Airport Authority to order Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. Item 1, approve the minutes of our previous meeting. Any corrections to the minutes you received? Okay, they'll stand approved as printed. Item 2, airport vouchers totaling $45,161.88. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Questions or comments?
Are we on contract with, like, for Gibb and Sons? Is that something that we go out for bid for? Because,
Yeah, well, how that works, so Gibb & Sons was the original HVAC installer in this terminal building,
okay,
but after the remodel that we completed in 2008, Grant's Mechanical took that
Okay.
over. But Gibb has always maintained the east terminal building.
okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
Any other questions? Roll call vote.
Linda?
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Lynn?
Oh, Lynn. Aye.
Lynn? Haugen?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye. Item 3, individual vouchers as follows. Items A and B is listed both for Mead and Hunt. Do I have a motion?
So, second.
Any questions? Roll call vote.
Linda?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Haugen? Clark?
Aye.
My D's not coming through?
It is.
It is, but you're saying Lynn.
I'm Lynn.
Lynn.
Oh,
No wonder
That's
we're all
okay.
confused.
I know, I'm like, okay. I'll just pretend.
I'll re-alphabetize here.
Yeah.
All
By
right,
first names.
my fault.
Item 4, receive requests from
Switch chairs.
Dave Oleg and David Glott.
All right, you have a request from Dr. Glatt. They are in a hangar that's just under the rotating beacon in the South GA. Over in this area right here is their hangar. So they're looking for an extension. Typically in hangars of this nature, it's a 5-year extension. So that's what I would recommend that you would approve, and Stacy will get it all put together for us.
I'll move to approve that.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 5, receive update on AIP Grant 48.
So September 14th, Stacy and I accepted the grant number 48. It was a little over $2.7 million, and that is for the reimbursement of the second phase of the cargo apron expansion that was completed last year, and then also for the Dakota Drive project that we're moving forward with. So it's accepted. The first drawdown request is in for almost 1.7 million of that, so we'll get that drawn down and hopefully in our account yet this week. So that's the update on that.
Any questions?
How much more are we, so that covers the 5% that we were gonna cover? Or that's the 5% from the state?
Covers 90%, so we will apply for the state share early next year. So the state will come up with 5%.
Okay.
Or we'll apply for it, we'll see if they'll come up with 5%.
Still have 5% from us.
And then the 5% from us will be recovered in the PFC application that's under review right now.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it'll cost us 0.
Any other questions? We don't need any action on that. Okay, item 6, receive the parking and transportation study number 3.
Okay, I think that was provided to you in email, but now you have it in hard format. If you have any questions or if there's anything that sticks out in the study.
I think, first, I love this, and I'll put my little summary together too, but I think if you look at the 3rd page, it was interesting to see that, like with the parked cars, this wouldn't surprise many of us, is that 40% that was the highest in December 2017, and also that was the lowest for drop-offs. And so the summer months looks like there's more of the drop-offs, and so I thought that was interesting. Plus, when you look at from June 2017 to July 2018, there was a 3% drop in taxis yet, and this is where we might be seeing that increase, is the TNCs, the Uber, the Lyfts. There's a 4% increase. So I thought that that was interesting, and it'll be interesting to see the trend, because from 2% up to 6%, it looks like it, taxis dropped off a little bit, but Uber, Lyfts went up more than that. So I just think that'll be an interesting trend to watch. Are we going to continue and do this, or is this was the last one?
Well, this is the last one per the current
Okay.
contract that SP Plus has. We're taking proposals from parking firms that are due on October 1st. Then you guys will have to evaluate that and decide if you want SP Plus to continue. And if they do, they will definitely keep doing this. They found it pretty valuable for themselves here and at other airports.
I liked it. I thought it was good hard data to look at, so I'm kind of a numbers guy. I like to see
Me too.
the numbers and where they come from. Question number 2 on page 6 says, where are you from? I wish it said, where do you live?
Oh,
Instead of
yes.
where are you from? Because the international travelers, if you look at the next page, like there's a guy from Iraq, and Guam, and I don't think we have a lot of business travelers from Iraq here. So that may be, where did you grow up is where they interpreted it, and not where they currently reside. That might be just a different way to ask that question.
So where do you live?
Also, on page 8, if you look at, the business travelers versus leisure travelers, I thought that seemed like, you look at July and June, they were pretty much the same. So it is pretty consistent. Business travelers about 38%, 39%, and the leisure, the rest. Winter, 50-50, because we know that people like to get away. That was great.
Good study though.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just
Aren't they super consistent? I
receive
thought that
and
was
file.
great.
Okay, item 7, receive the
Did you want a
update.
motion to receive and file, or just no motion necessary? That's right.
Receive update on the Skyway. Terry?
Good morning. I'm going to actually use some of the new ones and old ones so you have to kind of see the difference. So what we've been doing is spending a lot of time in developing the plan. So from a schematic design and architecture, it's kind of an overall scheme, what's our idea, how it could possibly work. We go into design development, and after design development, basically we're showing you this is what it is, this is how we're going to do it, and then get that blessing and then go into construction documents. So we've been wrestling with a lot of things with regards to the Skyway, just from the standpoint of methods of supporting it, issues with economics in terms of how to do that. After we got our soil tests and looking at different things that have to do with settlement and all those kind of things to try to come up with the best solution. And so you'll see there's like 3 major things that have changed. So the things that haven't changed yet are basically what it's going to look like from the inside. So I'm not going to go through those, but so you can see that we used to have 5 buildings and now we only have 3. Part of that was after taking a closer look at this and the idea of master planning for a parking ramp at some point. We need to be a certain distance away from the terminal, or we have to build a parking ramp with some blast kind of requirements that gets super expensive. And so what we did is we moved the first building basically on the other side of the short-term parking lot, and then what would happen is our parking ramp would go then right here basically someday. Whether it's, and that can go, any direct, we can go as far south or however we want to do that, stage it, however that ends up happening if it ever does. So you can see that this building is larger before that accommodation, so we kind of have a hallway built in that goes out, and we'll have a panel area that's removable that we can just pop out and create a hallway into, and door into the parking ramp. The other thing you'll see is kind of the difference, subtle, but the height of that building versus, so really our skyway hasn't changed very significant at all. I mean, a few inches here and there, feet here and there to accommodate structure, mechanical systems, those kind of things. These have gotten taller because we've decided to put the mechanical equipment on kind of a third floor basically. And so we've got all that worked out. And then probably the other big thing is we are looking at material choices for the base of this these buildings and supports. So you'll see before we had kind of an all white panel, and we're going to do some more stuff on that with regards to other colors that we can take a look at before we finalize that. But wanted a hard surface on that lower end, so that's a precast panel. So we looked at pouring, so we were, for a while there, we had supports that we were pouring the concrete, and to be honest with you, just don't have that kind of expertise in our construction area to pour exposed concrete very consistently. They just don't do it up here much because it just doesn't happen. If we were in Arizona, they do it all the time. Probably not much of a problem. So we were concerned about what it would look like. And so what we did is we ended up changing to a steel frame. So there's actually 2 steel columns in each one of these column wraps. And those are wrapped with precast concrete, and we'd probably use a white porcelain cement, so it would have a really light color to it. And again, this is as close right now as we can get with a rendering, but we'd have, samples at some point, those kind of things. So you can see that we have this kind of a gray finish. We were looking at round ones for a while, and they just got to be really big to get around the columns, and so we tried to get that as small as we could. So those are the 3 main really big changes in it. Obviously the biggest one being only 3 points of access, and that had a lot to do with conversations with Sean and Darren and what we thought made sense.
Can we add points at a later?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so we still have that idea where we're gonna build this so we can add on to it. And so we could go out farther to the south. We could go all the way across if we wanted. We could do just about anything we wanted. You'll see the other thing is this last building here actually has kind of a little larger footprint because it's got a boiler in it and some other things that run the heat and all those kind of things that run along the skyway. So we're really doing a radiant heat, hot water heat that runs basically right underneath the windowsill, the length of it. The only thing we have a couple of decisions to be making that we're going to be talking with Sean and Darren about. We're also, right now, it's kind of pretty much got it nailed down to about here. And then we kind of know how we're going to build it here, but we actually have a meeting this week on Thursday with Darren and Sean to talk a little bit about staging that and how would that work. How would we keep the airport open? What would we use for, Jeff's going to be involved in that, and what would we use for temporary access, and some of those things with regards to even maybe sequencing. Do we start this first and get it done right away if it would start in the spring, or do we do it at a different time, or do we just stage it so we can really do it to a certain point and just end it? And so it will probably be a little bit to do with what's the travel cycle, when's the slowest time, and that's when we'd want to do it. But we're going to be talking about, how do we reroute that traffic, and for how long, and maybe some construction techniques on how to make that work. So we would build that into the design from the standpoint of possibly having some, like scaffolding that's actually built into the structure that gets cut away later on, that they can work above that road and have not only fall protection, but, protection for the vehicles, those kinds of things. You've seen them if you've driven to Minneapolis into their airport or bigger airports where they're doing construction, they do a lot of that kind of thing because they have to. They just got to keep the place open. So that's right now probably our biggest hole we need to fill. So, any questions?
Why did we eliminate the far south?
Sorry?
They eliminate the far south?
We just looked at that as, if we were at one point we were talking about getting closer so we could go across the street. As you can see in the parking trends, taxis might be going up. Uber and Lyft are surpassing they're going down, and Uber and Lyft are actually surpassing what the taxis are. So you're still actually getting more people that aren't parking here. And so we decided that, if we're way out here, we only have to get to this building and then we're covered. So to put a building here is really only covering like this last row of parking. It didn't seem to make sense. And we didn't think if you were parking, here, you would walk back to this, you'd walk to here. So just that in economics up. It still stretches quite a ways.
How long is that? From the terminal to the third building there, how long is that?
From here to here?
No,
from
to the left
From
side.
the entrance to the terminal?
Oh, from
there to there?
all the way to here?
Yeah.
Oh, about 700 feet, 750 feet.
Okay.
It's a bulk.
Where's the covered parking?
There's any covered parking. Well, actually there is, right underneath that.
Yeah, that's right.
And depending on which way the wind blows, you might get wet, you might not.
Still, this will be great to get them out of the elements.
Yeah.
And it's, set up for potentially to connect to the parking garage. I like that you moved it because, the last thing we need is to build it and then have us out of compliance with, with what the FAA says where we can put a parking garage. So that's great.
I'll just say my piece about the whole covered parking because I've had a lot of people ask about that. So where you'll see that is you'll see that in warmer climates. So you see it basically to get out of the heat of the sun. And if you go to Arizona, which I do quite often, I always marvel at the fact that they can, span great distances in a single bound because all they're doing is holding up itself. It's literally, sticking out your arm and that's all you have to do instead of putting a 10-pound weight on your wrist. And then what even complicates it more here is the freeze and thaw cycles that we have in February. I mean, it could be 10 degrees and the sun starts to gain momentum after January. And so you have a sunny day and 10 degrees and things are melting. And then as soon as that sun goes down, it freezes. And now you have an ice dam building. And so the idea of having to solve that problem economically is really difficult. And so you end up having all sorts of issues with structure and freeze and thaw and backup and just all the issues that come along with that are really difficult in our area. So you can do it, it just costs us a whole lot more than if you drive along in these warmer communities. They basically putting a metal deck over some, and that's it. Where we would almost have to build like a rubber roof and have drains and we might have to have electric heat tape to keep it, because there'd be nothing underneath it. It's difficult to do.
I think the other thing that's vastly different is when you look at the earth and the soil, it's much different down in Arizona.
Yeah.
It's clay, most of it's clay and rock. And so the stability of the ground there is much different than it is here.
Yeah, so it's a whole other animal. It's difficult to do. And a lot more expensive. So, and of course, then there's our horizontal snow that we have too, so that's always fun.
So Terry, timeline?
We're planning on having drawings and stuff done for possible February bid kind of scenario if we need to. Yeah.
And can we do an open house then, kind of the same thing, a public viewing? Is that any sort of thing that we'd want to?
We can certainly do that.
Okay.
That's official.
Yep.
You guys actually.
Okay,
Anything else?
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks nice. All right, airport construction and security. Carrie, anything
So I
else?
can, they're just buttoning up the east end finally, so it looks like it's almost complete, so.
I don't have anything.
Anybody? Sean?
Well, the Arts Partnership is to be here this morning for their display. It's going to be cows, not cows. So I got a couple of them in my office. A little bit of a conflict with where they'd originally thought they were going to put it because of the Heritage Homes display. I think we're going to end up moving it a little bit further to the west and then work with Heritage Homes to move that big display a little bit and get it kind of where they want to be. There will be some installation in the departure lounge as well here at some point, but it looks really
great.
good. So Flint has worked with us and the Arts Partnership to give me the engagement today and so forth. They're going to start install here sometime this morning, and hopefully by 1 o'clock or so it'll be finished. Foreign Trade Zone Conference last week, all the discussion is about the tariffs and the increases. A lot of concern in the industry with what a lot of operators are dealing with and grantees with the impacted imports of items. So far the case plant here in Fargo is doing okay on the tractor side and the loader side. Their combine plant in Grand Island, Nebraska is impacted significantly more than Fargo, but we'll continue to watch that. We're still working with DigiKey and their attorney on what they want to do here in Fargo as well as Thief River Falls, so stay tuned for that. On our website, if you go under Airport Authority proposals, you'll see the responses to the questions from the parking lot operators. So we responded to SP Plus, Republic, and also to In-Flight and Interstate. In-Flight and Interstate, I think are the same company. We've issued 3 addendums. I think the biggest one is that we'd originally had put out a $2.4 million minimum annual guarantee and then 85% of all revenue. Amended that to there's still a $2.4 million minimum annual guarantee, but then it's 85% of revenue for any gross revenue in excess of $2 million $1. So it gives them the opportunity on the first revenue amounts to come in to keep a percentage to offset their costs for any new equipment that they may have to put in, security system, etc. So I think it'll be a little bit more favorable on that end. from
Is
there.
that a typical arrangement for airports to do this kind of parking? The way it's 85%?
It can be in tiers. Right now, we're getting 81% of the revenue over at a certain tier.
Uh-huh.
We start out at 35%. I didn't bring it with me. But then our annual minimum is significantly less than the current contract,
Okay.
so we'll increase that.
Okay.
So I would expect operators will offer us more, some less, but then as you evaluate their proposals when they come in, it'll be on, who's going to do the best job of marketing, what corporate partner programs, frequent loyalty programs that they have, and so forth. And I think you'll start to see a lot of differences between the companies once we look at that.
And all the services on the parking lot are taken care of by those companies, such as trash, snow removal, that kind of thing?
Everything.
Everything?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that we participate in is major infrastructure. So if there's a mill and an overlay or a new lot is constructed, potentially a seal coat or something of that nature, we would participate in that. But they would do all the striping, all the crack fill, and things of that nature. But they've got all the expenses. The snow removal is at their risk.
Okay.
This type of a contract sheds us from that versus a management contract where we assume all the risks. So,
Okay.
yep.
So the proposals are due,
October 1st for the parking, and then the engineering responses are due October 4th. Haven't had any inquiries from any of the engineers. It's been out and been advertised, but I expect that maybe that'll pick up yet this week before they get their proposals together. So,
And then we will all review and give input, and you wanted to vote at the second meeting in October.
we'll try to, if we're ready. It'd be that Wednesday, October 24th. They're going to meet on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. If we can get everything together. If we can't, there's no problem delaying it until the first meeting in November. But hopefully you'll have time to evaluate and figure out what proposals and requests for qualifications are the best. So, SP Plus has done a great job. Mead and Hunt's done a great job for us, and there's a lot of good talent out there. So we'll see what we get in terms of proposals and qualifications.
Any questions about? Is there anything else?
I have one. I'd like to make a motion that we have.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd just like to express my appreciation to the members of the authority and to the management and people who work at this airport for the absolutely outstanding job they've done over the past few years. Bringing in both FedEx, UPS, having the largest, best fixed base operator recognized nationwide as one of the best top 2 or 3. Getting the MQ-9, flying out of Fargo, bringing more jobs, full-time and part-time personnel into the Air National Guard. And I realize you don't have a lot to do with the airlines and what they charge and what they do, but bringing Frontier back. And you've done all this without a significant increase in any fees. You're very user-friendly. I hear nothing but admiration for the Fargo Airport from the people I have talked to. Thank you so much for your dedication. I realize you're doing this all for the money you receive from being members of this board, but it's a pleasure as a taxpayer in this city to see what you've done at no expense to the citizens and no significant increase in the fees to the users. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to make a clarification for any viewers, we don't get paid. So, no, it's all volunteer.
General Halkin.
This,
You get coffee?
Having just heard General McDonald, I'd like to thank him for the great lead-in of the motion I'm about to make. And that is that I move that you select 2 board members to review the compensation for our executive director and bring forward a proposal for pay raise in the November meeting.
So I have a motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Well, I think just like Mac just said, you know, FedEx, UPS, the airline, the foreign trade zone that Sean works with our partners on, and the airlines and the work that's done here brings in more money to this city than, quite frankly, a lot of things that go on down at the city commission. So I'm just really pleased, and I think if you look at the compensation rates for other individuals and other airport directors in our multi-state area, we're on the low end, and we need to change that.
Other discussion? All in favor?
I concur. As you know, Don and I spent months on this issue, and so whomever, if this passes, whomever's appointed, I would be happy to provide the stacks and a summary of it, because there's a lot to justify what this research.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And let's identify the 2 people. I would assume, General Halkin, you would be, and Tammy,
willing.
you've got all the data.
Mm-hmm.
So would you 2 be willing to?
Sure.
More than happy to.
Okay.
When would you like this by?
No,
The motion was November,
Oh, November 1st, okay.
the first meeting in November.
First meeting in November, okay.
is there anything else?
Two little things. One, we're on the cusp of another announcement, an air service announcement, so I hope to hear more about that early this week or next week, so stay tuned for that. I think we'll have that here in the next few days. They're pretty anxious, so we'll see where that goes.
I'm surprised it wasn't today.
Yeah, I was hoping so. So the other thing, Pat Sweeney is here, and another highlight of a company that's on Hector Field for, 57 years now, Pat, or 55 plus years that weather modification has been in existence?
Actually, since '61,
Okay.
and I joined the company as a sophomore at UND. In '75, we were working summer jobs, and we moved here in '93. The board and the city, economic development, helped us develop the Northeast General Aviation Park, where we've been now for 25 years. So, but we opened in '75, so 23 years officially. But again, like Max said, the support of this board, support of the city, make us all successful, and we're doing very well, and we're very proud of what we're doing, and we have great people. I remember coming here and saying I created 24 jobs in '94 in front of the Airport Authority. I created 24 jobs in 5 years, where we created 60. And today we have close to 160 employees, in addition to another 20 employees out in Kindred in our chemical plant. So anyway, thank you for your support, and keep doing a good job.
We just
It's a
thought
great
it was,
gateway for people coming into Fargo on private jets. We're very proud of it, so thank you.
we thought it was worthy of recognizing you here
Thank you very much,
for a
Sam. I
long time.
appreciate
So
that.
we'll try and get you featured in our next quarterly newsletter as well. So appreciate that. That's all I've got.
Anything else? Okay, meeting's adjourned.